In this week's episode, we'll be discussing the evolution of marketing from the caveman up into present day.
Welcome to the Marketing Made Great podcast. In each episode, we'll be sharing with you the tips, tricks, and techniques from the top sales and marketing experts from around the globe that will make marketing simple for your business. Here's your host, Mark Traeger.
Very excited this week to have on the show Jeff Sheehan. Now, he's got a very unique perspective on how marketing has evolved from caveman to present day. I think you're going to enjoy his insight. With that in mind, here's my interview with Jeff. I'm very fortunate here today to have with me in the studio Jeff Sheehan. He is an author, speaker, futurist, and an influencer. And Jeff, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure being here, Mark.
Jeff, I've been following you for many months now and really like some of your insight to what's going on in the marketing and technology world that's out there. Can you share with me a little bit about your background, where you've come from? Because we look like we're boolenials. Now, a boolenial, for most people out there that don't know this, it's a baby boomer with millennial tendencies and traits. So just to let you know, there's two boolenials here in the studio. And what we're going to talk about is kind of what we've seen as an evolution in marketing over the years. And according to what we were talking here in the pre-show, Jeff, you said marketing hasn't changed at all since, Stone Age. Can you explain that for me? I don't, you made some interesting points. Share it for our audience.
Oh, sure, I will. First thing I want to correct you, though. Not only am I a millennial, but I'm probably the grandfather of social media.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, because I can't think, quite honestly, Mark, other than Tom Peters, there aren't many people older than me that are actually playing actively in the social media space.
Okay,
or marketing
all right.
space in this day and age. But a lot of them have retired, gone off in the sunset, rode their horse off or whatever. But I'm still out here, still in the game.
Still in the game.
Yes. So, no, as far as marketing, I've been in it for, I just saying, 43 years since the days when I started my paper route.
Oh, wow.
And that involved marketing, involved sales, customer loyalty,
Sure.
you name it, customer acquisition,
Right.
and market share,
Right.
all the components of marketing. At that time, I didn't know what marketing was because I was a young teenager. But nevertheless, that's was the basis for my start in marketing.
Cool.
Then evolved when I went to University of Massachusetts at Amherst. I took a marketing class and absolutely loved it. I figured, however, that I better stick with accounting, which I hated, in order to find a job when I graduated from school.
Sure.
But nevertheless, it was a great way to actually get my feet wet in marketing. It was that first marketing class at University of Massachusetts Amherst. And I've been in this actively now for 40 plus years.
Okay. That's great, Jeff. So one of the things that you made a comment before we started recording that I thought struck me as interesting is you really made a comment that marketing hasn't changed over the years. The names have changed.
The names have changed.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, the names have changed. The tools have changed. The approach has changed in some respects. However, it's back to the basics. What makes sense? The 4 Ps, anyone who's taken a marketing class knows that the 4 Ps are product, place, price, promotion. Getting those right. Making sure you have a solid foundation in each and everything that you do. The tools have changed, the approach, the naming, like content marketing, Mark, as I explained, that has been around since the age of the cavemen, when they were putting content on the sides of the caves and with drawings.
So they were doing things like menus for their restaurant or something?
Whatever, yes.
Okay.
The latest dinosaur they were capturing or whatever it might have been. But the term, like content marketing, it's just evolved. Back when I was in the agency business in the 80s, content marketing was brochures, it was direct mail pieces, it was PR campaigns, it was white papers, it was different ads for trade shows,
Sure.
a whole plethora of different things. That was content marketing then.
Right.
What has happened is it has evolved in that someone coined the phrase content marketing, and people made $1 gazillion because they've been able to effectively coin the phrase content marketing and get everyone else to drink the Kool-Aid from the content marketing well.
Of course.
The same thing holds true for ABM, which is account-based marketing. I was actively involved in strategic account management and global account management. Essentially, they were precursors in a lot of respects, and the same thing as account-based marketing to a certain extent. Account-based marketing has a few extra bells and whistles, but the critical foundation for account-based marketing is no different than it was with strategic account marketing and global account management, where you really focus in on the wants and needs of your key customers
Sure.
and take whatever action you need to help them with their business and for you to grow your business accordingly.
Right. So content's evolved too, and I think also too now with the age of computers and so forth, the consumer, before they even engage with a brand, has already done a lot of research because of Google and all that. So they really don't have to spend a whole lot of time with a salesman. And now that we can cram brochures and everything into the phone, content via the cell phone now is easier and easier to get to.
Without question. More so than sending a brochure or
Right.
sending them whatever it might be through the snail mail.
Right.
It's totally different in that respect. Also, the fact is, like you're saying, they can track people now with using cookies and other mechanisms, but it has not changed fundamentally.
Right.
And if you still put out crap content, as you did then, lousy brochures, whatever, and you still do that today, you're going to get nowhere. So you need to have high quality content that really addresses the needs of the audience that you're trying to serve.
So let me ask you about content. Is it getting better, worse, harder to find, easier to find? What's your thoughts on content?
Well, basically, there's too much of it to begin with.
Okay.
There's a lot of content fluff. And the fact, what I've seen over the last couple of months seems to be a drop in quality content. I'm one who curates a lot of articles on a daily basis and reads them. And the quality is definitely not what it was a year ago, 2 years ago. And also the quantity has dropped. So it takes me longer to actually find quality articles than it did a year or 2 years ago. And I think it's attributable to the fact that we've all been faced with a content tsunami, inundated with content. And I think there's a general perception that content is not working in a lot of cases.
Right.
That there's so much of it, people aren't paying attention to it.
Sure.
And there's no return on the investment, or very little return on investment for those producing the content.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got 350,000 Twitter followers.
It dropped off because Twitter cleaned house.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think I lost about 8,000.
Okay, well, I was just going to say I checked before I came into the studio, and you're about 350,000.
But
so what you're trying to do is when you post a tweet to your Twitter universe, you're looking for the content that's going to impact them and change something about the way they think, the way they do business, or whatever.
Absolutely.
Right.
I try to figure out what would make sense to me as a marketer or salesperson,
Right.
and what would resonate with them as well. That would be helpful to their respective businesses accordingly.
Okay, so then that brings up a good question then. So when you're looking at content, how do you know, in your mind, what is good quality content to you?
Because does it address a problem? Does it provide a solution to a problem? Does it provide a new approach to solving a particular problem? It's not just a generic per se and that has been copied from elsewhere, but something that's new for the most part and can help fellow marketers and salespeople out there.
So you're looking for that evergreen content, somebody that's had an original thought.
Yes, absolutely, if I can find it.
Right.
But again, there's so much regurgitation of content already out there.
Right.
It's very difficult to find those hidden gems.
Right, and that's what I think we're all looking for in marketing is those hidden gems, those new ideas that may have never seen the light of day in one vertical versus another.
And there aren't many,
Right.
honestly.
Right. But what's the old saying? There's never such thing as a new idea. It's our perception or how we perceive it and how we change and modify it.
Right, and there have been a number of people that have been able to do that effectively. Have taken, and if you look at an idea, a product life cycle, idea life cycle, they've been able to look at that inflection point and take it to a higher level
Sure.
rather than having it drop off precipitously as a product life cycle curve would be.
Right. No, I understand that, but so if I wanted to create new content to get my audience excited, it's that battle of creating content all the time that you hear about in order to be relevant. Is it quantity versus quality, or what do you think is that secret formula that as content creators we should be looking for?
Well, I think it's a combination of the two. Quantity because of the fact that you need to keep your name out there.
Right.
Because what will happen is if you're not seen out there, you become irrelevant.
That's true.
So it's important to maintain that consistency with regard to the content and with regard to the quantity. As far as quality, the better or more information you can provide, substantiate what your claims are with regard to the quantity, then you're going to be better off. And people perceive that as being
Sure.
higher quality content than just the generic material that's out there now.
Oh, absolutely. And I see this a lot when I go to trade shows. People just handing out propaganda over and over again and hoping that somebody's going to watch. And one of the things that I always see and have done with my clients is, okay, if you're going to hand out all this information, I want you to go to the trash cans at the end of the aisle and collect all your literature back that was thrown away, because somebody's not going to save a traditional brochure or a traditional handout. They're looking for something, not necessarily a gimmick, but something they can take and put in like their shirt pocket or their back pocket, because that's the ones that are going to look at something like a bookmark or a business card or something like that.
It's something that you can leave with them that's going to continue to create awareness for your particular brand. It's
Right.
Certainly critical. But you have a good point there. One of the things about trade shows, I remember a few years ago, people were saying, trade shows are dead. They're about
Sure.
to die.
Right.
And what I've seen is, at least my perception is that trade shows have been reinvented, that they definitely fill a need because of the fact that with social media, it's great to have all these followers, all these likes, and the interaction online. But nothing beats human-to-human connectivity, which you realize at a trade show.
Right.
So I think that the importance of trade shows is going to continue.
Absolutely.
And that people are going to get back to going to trade shows and interacting with people at them, because they miss that when they're sitting at a desk all day playing on their computer. It just does not equate to the same type of relationship you achieve when you shake someone's hand or you sit down and have a drink or a dinner with those respective
Right.
individuals.
You're spending time with them.
Yes.
Sometimes a Skype call or a Zoom call doesn't necessarily, even though you're videoing face to face, it's still, there's something about that interaction face to face that makes all the difference.
Absolutely, without question.
Right.
It's very important.
Well, as content has evolved, one of the things that I love about content is when I was growing up, there was three TV stations. And if I missed an episode of The Addams Family the next day at school, I was in trouble because I couldn't keep up with my friends. They couldn't understand why I couldn't watch that TV show. But now, with thousands of cable channels and everything else that's out there competing, we're in a situation where now the consumer can pick and choose what content they want to listen to or hear or see, right?
Correct.
And that's the battle that we all face. Is there a such thing as too many cable channels? I think there is. That's why you're seeing a drop-off, I think, in the subscriptions for, all the different cable networks, because they're going to things like YouTube, TV and things like that.
There's so many different channels that the
Right.
consumer can go to now.
Right.
It's incredible.
Yeah, we
Compared
have...
to when we were kids with the 3 channels only.
Right.
And then you had trouble getting them because you had rabbit ears on the top of your television. And
Absolutely.
yeah, you had to worry about, is this signal good or not? Or what?
Right. Oh, no, absolutely. So that, like you said, that influx of content, it's way too much, and the quality is what people are searching out. Whether it be in video, podcasting, articles, whatever it is, they're looking for those trusted advisors that can give them information to change or grow.
Well, the other thing that disturbs me, Mark, is quite candidly, is the fact that so many companies and so many local businesses are relying only on digital marketing, on content marketing, and everything else to generate sales.
Right.
They're not selling. They're not taking an approach where they have to be out there in front of the public in order to help grow their respective businesses. They think that digital marketing is going to do everything for them. It's not the case. I met with a lady a few weeks ago, and she was in a business where you really had to go out and sell the services. That if you sat there and relied on inbound leads and that, you would starve to death. And I gave her some tips on what she should be doing.
Right.
But within the marketing profession, there's such an emphasis on inbound marketing. Let's get back to the roots with regard to integrated marketing that includes all the components of marketing, including sales. And
Right.
sales is still a critical factor. People say that cold calls are dead are full of it. That cold calls still
course they are.
have relevancy.
Sure.
Most people don't like the cold call, so anyone who says that, they will support them because of the fact that it's hard work.
Right.
It's not easy. It's a numbers game.
Right.
You have to pick up and dial for dollars. But that's a critical factor, and also the fact is with regard to social media, it's made it easier because of the fact that now you know who you're talking to. You get through to them much more readily than it could in the old days with strict cold calls, calling from a phone book or whatever it might be.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But let's not neglect integrated marketing and a portfolio approach to everything that we do, and don't strictly rely on inbound marketing, because inbound marketing is not going to pay the rent or generate the types of revenues that you want to realize. It's too competitive, costs you a bloody fortune to Google AdWords and that to
absolutely.
get the keywords that you need,
Yeah.
and it's not always effective.
Well, yeah, and I think you're right, because a lot of people think if they build a website and they focus in on search engine optimization, it's just they're going to be running through the front door and all that, and that's just one aspect of it.
Right.
Most people don't know that search engine optimization probably will only generate 5 to 15% of your overall revenue. So why are you? What else are you going to do? There's so many new options out there nowadays. Why aren't you doing those kinds of things?
Because what has happened, someone is selling them that this is the way that they can maximize their revenues, just with search engine optimization only. And they're not telling the truth. And they're being self-serving when they do that.
Right.
Again, getting back, they need an integrated marketing approach. Otherwise, they will starve. Their business will not flourish.
Yeah, and that's the thing we try to talk to people like yourself, and it seems to be the ongoing story is you've got to be doing more than just having a website and putting up some search engine optimization. How are you building that relationship with the customer?
Right, and that's another critical factor that's so overlooked, is everything within content marketing that I would say, I shouldn't say everything, but it seems like 80 to 90% of it is all geared towards customer acquisition. It's not towards customer retention or satisfying the needs of loyal customers.
Right.
And that's where unless you're a startup, then really that's where the majority of your expenditure should be, because those customers are going to generate additional revenue for you. Also, they're going to be acting as goodwill ambassadors and helping spread the message of what you offer to the public if they're satisfied consumers.
Absolutely. And I think from what I've seen over the years is we spend more time on new customer acquisition than we do on keeping the customers that we already have.
Absolutely. The profits are in the existing customers.
Exactly. It's expanding that customer, that the happier they are, the more they want of your services and products.
Right. The other thing that's disturbing, Mark, is I think that most marketing practitioners fail to neglect the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule.
Okay.
Where the thing is, they go out and they get enamored with all these new tools, and they fail to neglect what are they getting for each new tool or each new channel they implement, whether it's social media channels or whatever. Are they getting a return on the investment that is decent, or is it just an incremental return? You should be focusing on those tools and those channels within social media and those activities within marketing overall that are providing you with 80% of the revenue activity. And anything beyond that, you need to quickly evaluate whether or not that's going to give me a sufficient return on my investment for the dollars and time spent for those activities.
Absolutely. So, a lot of the people out there are wondering with, I show a slide when I get a chance to speak around the country of like over 5,000 marketing options you can do digitally. And I always tell people, start with one that you understand, that you can commit time and energy to and build from there. The commitment of time and energy as a small business owner can be daunting. And if you're trying to do 15 different things, it can get overwhelming.
You were absolutely right, because the fact is not only is it time consuming, it's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these tools that they purchase end up gathering dust. The onboarding process can be very, very time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
And do you really get a sufficient return on that new tool that you're trying to use in your respective business?
Yeah, absolutely. And those sources for those tools also too need to be, I guess, investigated. Are you dealing with a practitioner or are you dealing with a keyboard jockey? Somebody that's curating articles and so forth that thinks he's got the hot thing, or are you dealing with someone like you and me or whoever it may be that's in the trenches and has a history of doing those kinds of things on a regular basis? It makes all the difference.
Yes, I mean, I'm very selective with what tools I do use, as a matter of fact, because of the fact that I don't have the time to investigate new ones and to implement them. And I feel that what kind of return is it going to give me with regard to productivity or return on investment from a dollar perspective?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that with so many different options out there, it's hard to decide on where you start or where you begin. So if you had to take one business, any business, where would you, from a marketing perspective, where would you encourage them to start? Because most of the people I run across either don't have a marketing strategy or a plan, or they just throw money at something and hope something sticks.
Well, you have a great argument there, and I concur. One thing, they have to take an introspective look at their respective businesses, do an audit of the business itself, and where are they driving their revenue from? Who is their target audience?
Right.
What
target audience?
Yes.
Wait a minute. A business is supposed to have a target audience? We're not supposed to sell something to everybody?
No, absolutely not, as you know.
I know.
But the thing is that most people don't clearly, have not clearly discerned who the target audience is, the customer persona, and how they're going to reach those respective individuals. Also, once you've done that, you need to come up with a scenario or an elevator pitch or written communication that clearly addresses the needs of the problems of that target audience.
Right.
And have that clearly written down, and that needs to be part of your overall, what are your goals and objectives? What is the strategy? How do you measure that what you're doing or going to do with regard to that overall plan that you should have in place as well? And it should be clearly written down with metrics and with time measurement with
so you got to measure it, analyze it, and see what's working if
what's
it's not.
working, and then pivot if you have to after several months. But analyze a little bit daylights out of it, make sure it is worthwhile what you're doing. But have a plan, have a set goals and objectives, write them down, and clearly communicate them to your entire team, the staff of people.
Well, it doesn't have to be complicated either. It can be
simple.
It can be 4 bullet points, of things you want to accomplish. But the problem comes at what we see is the execution of it. Once you start executing, the things become really exciting, because then you can start tracking what's working and what's not. But you get something, though, that I think that I see a lot is clarifying that message. How simple can it be? As people in our respective businesses, we're experts. And sometimes we fail to dummy down what we know about our business to the point where they can understand it, or we make assumptions they already know a lot about our business, when really they're really down at a very low level. So I always tell clients too, or people that I talk to is, can you describe your business in 12 words or less? And is your message simple enough that a caveman can understand in 5 seconds? Or what I call the grunt test. And the best thing to do is when you write content or you have a message or a story that I've found is what I call the coffee test. Take that content, buy your good friend a cup of coffee, have them read it, and then describe back to you exactly what it is you do. If they can do that, then what you've come up with is perfect, especially if they have an aha moment. So those are the kinds of things I think is you got to go back to basics. Like you said earlier, get back to the foundations. And I think we with all those options, we make it all too complicated. Simple is the best. I mean, you've probably never heard of Don Miller that wrote the Story Brand book. To me, that's an amazing book and a lot of great insight on this customer journey or insight on keeping your message simple. So again, like you said, content doesn't have to be complicated. It just needs to be simple and easy to understand.
And also aligned with your target audience.
Right.
There's no sense publishing content that's going to be that's applicable to everyone because your audience isn't everyone.
Right.
It should be aligned with your target audience.
Absolutely, because you think about it, you put a website up, you're instantly available to over 5.5 billion people. Now they don't necessarily find you right away, but you can't service everybody. I always talk about if you can build your tribe of 1,000 people that love your product, love what you do, you're hitting a home run. You're making an amazing living. But if those 1,000 people are happy, excited about, can't wait for your next new product, you're hitting a home run. So how do you build that 1,000 tribe? You got to start at the basic level, the foundation, like you said.
Without question.
Right.
And make sure that your basic foundation is solid as it possibly can be.
Absolutely.
Take a look at the business. With your current business, are you executing at each and every point along the customer journey for your respective customers?
Right.
And you don't have any problems whatsoever. Right. And for instance, just in a local business, it starts, there's a place over near where I live. Mm-hmm. The person spent $1 million on this facility.
Oh my gosh.
It was a chicken place.
Okay.
And what they failed to do is they failed to staff it with competent individuals.
Oh my goodness.
So they spent $1 million, and then what they did is they paid minimum wage for the people that worked there. They didn't have high quality individuals that had a customer focus. Right. And guess what?
Gone.
The place failed within 6 months.
Oh my gosh.
And the franchisee had spent $1 million on the facility, the building itself.
Oh my goodness.
So you have to look after the basics. From point A to point C in the customer journey and everything you do should be covered. And you should do an exemplary job, just starting at the front there of who is manning the front of the shop that you have if you're in the brick and mortar business.
Sure.
Because it's so critical to retaining those customers who come in because they need a exemplary customer experience.
Well, and that brings back to a couple of foundations too, is are you investing in the people that you hire? Because if you get quality people, the experience that the new customer or prospect is going to have is going to be 100 times better. And it also too, and you brought up something about that customer journey, that brand experience. And really that brand experience is from the moment they meet you to the time they place an order to the time they get service and the ongoing relationship. What does that journey look like? There's stops along the way. Have you thought about what those look like? Because that's important, I think.
Very important. As a matter of fact, here locally, as you and I have been around Atlanta for years.
Sure.
I think, take Chick-fil-A, for example.
Absolutely.
And look what the phenomenal growth that company has realized, and because of the fact that they've invested in every aspect of the customer journey, starting with the people that they have manning those front counters for them, the cash registers.
Right.
High quality people that have a vested interest in serving the best interests of the customer.
Yeah, and that famous line, "My pleasure."
Correct.
When you say thank you for helping me, my pleasure.
Right.
That simple statement makes all the difference in the world.
Right.
They want to help. It's not necessarily, you think it's something minor, but they're there to help, and more companies can learn from that.
Yeah, further upstream, Ritz-Carlton just does an exemplary job with regard to customer service, customer experience.
Sure.
And they treat their customers right. And
Right.
what happens, people keep going back to the Ritz-Carlton to stay there and what have you.
And it's not necessarily the big things. A lot of time it's the itty-bitty, teeny-tiny things. Simply answering the phone
Correct.
in 5 seconds or less.
Do they do that at places now?
I've heard a rumor. I was listening to a podcast the other day that they're obsessive about answering their phone 24/7 in 5 seconds or less. Because they know from that moment they want to make sure that customer has a great experience. And it's cost them a lot of money to do that, but they're growing like wildfire. So those are the kinds of little things you may think are little, but pay off big dividends long term.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it's just so many consumers are neglected in this day and age.
Right.
Because you think that everything should be done online or through voicemail. And again, they try to remove the human element in all parts of the customer journey. I'm sorry you can't do it.
No. And that customer journey really begins with really understanding what your customer even looks like. Making sure that they, I like to liken it to creating a dossier, creating a secret CIA file of what that customer looks like, where they play, what kind of income they have, what websites do they go, what do they read, what are their hopes and aspirations. Because if you're showing up where they're at, you're going to get recognized a whole lot faster, because you can't service everybody. I don't care who you are, with the exception of maybe Amazon. Okay, that's the only person that's coming close to that right now.
Yes.
And maybe Walmart. Okay, but other than that, us small guys, we can't do that.
Impossible.
Right. So we have to differentiate ourselves. Looking at all the new stuff that's out there, from Facebook to Twitter to video, YouTube, everything, what are some of the new things that you're seeing in your adventures in reading all this neat stuff that you're seeing as a trend or something that's coming out or being developed?
Certainly more personalization.
Okay.
Without question. It's imperative.
Okay.
That you know your customers and you personalize the messaging to them and retain them. Email marketing has not died. It's still extremely effective, even more so than social media in most cases. Right. Social media not being the panacea that everyone thinks it is. Right. That a lot of there's still a lot of hype with regard to social media, this platform. Then you have pundits out there talking about video. This is the year of video. I heard that almost 9 years ago.
Right.
That this is the year of video. We have to be in video. Video is going to go viral. Everything you do is going to go viral. It doesn't happen, okay?
Right.
So it is, videos, again, getting back to this integrated marketing, is part of the marketing mix and part of something you should be doing, but it's not the only thing you should be doing.
Absolutely.
Right. Artificial intelligence is going to become even more important because of the fact that you want to try to make a determination of what your customer wants and needs before they even know it.
Absolutely.
Based upon their previous purchases and their personality types and so on and so forth.
Right.
The other thing is analytics. And I advocate that anyone who's playing in the marketing field needs to become very astute as to how to use analytics, or otherwise they're going to be toast moving forward.
Right.
Marketing is so competitive. People that were dog catchers 2 weeks ago are all of a sudden marketing experts. And it's...
Yes, it's true.
It's just loaded. And the problem is, it's very difficult to differentiate yourself because particularly in the small business arena, most of these small businesses, they don't vet who they're dealing with.
No, they don't.
And so someone comes to them and they seem to be an expert, know what they're talking about, then all of a sudden they think that they're experts. But someone who has the background in analytics and really can support what they're doing with data to see if it's effective or not is going to be much more employable. Someone who's will find it's easier to get gigs.
Oh yeah,
1099 society.
Oh yeah, we're in a gig economy,
Right.
so I mean the more information and analytics. But you said something a minute ago. To me, I think that secret element that people aren't really catching a hold of yet is email marketing is a great way to nurture prospects.
Without question.
I mean, you get them hooked on maybe a downloadable PDF that you give them about what you're doing. And then from there, you just begin, because once they give you their email address, maybe not necessarily their name, but their email address in order to download that information, that's been the first engagement in your brand.
Yes.
So how you nurture it is important.
And the thing is, most people do not know how to do that.
Right. It's not just one email.
No, absolutely not. It's a
Right.
campaign.
Right.
Consider, like we used to have years ago, direct mail campaigns. Email marketing is now direct mail. There's another point, though, is with regard to direct mail.
Right.
Direct mail has not died.
No.
Direct mail is still very effective in so many cases, particularly getting back to the targeting. If you have a target message and it's directed to the target audience that you resonate with.
Well, and especially what I love in direct marketing is a postcard.
Yes.
A simple postcard, well done, and also, too, using an odd size postcard. Something that sticks out, but is still, can be delivered as a postcard.
Yes.
But to me, I've seen some examples of that lately, and I still have them in my folder because that's something I want to use in some of the campaigns we've got coming up because it struck me as odd.
Well, the other
Pattern
thing
interrupt.
The other thing is promotional products.
Oh, yeah.
Specialty products as part of the marketing mix.
Absolutely.
And I can tell you, a refrigerator, Brave schedule,
Right.
and then the SEC football schedule for this. It's on the refrigerator.
Oh, absolutely.
It's something I received from realtors.
Right.
And it's very effective.
Absolutely.
But this is all part of that marketing mix, that integrated marketing strategy that every marketing practitioner needs to be cognizant of and needs to how to utilize. They can't be an expert in every field, so they need to go out and find those people who have the expertise in those respective disciplines and can execute them accordingly.
Well, I think based on what you've been saying here too, I think now as a business owner and entrepreneur, you also too have to have a box to become a marketer as well. You have to at least understand what marketing is and what it does and what it can do for your business and know what to look for that's out there in the marketplace.
Well, you have a good point there. Not only that, you have to be a salesperson as well. Everyone in this day and age, and particularly I stress this at the job search workshops I give,
Right.
you are a salesperson, a marketer, whether you realize it or not. And every small business person has to be a salesperson and a marketer combined in order to be successful in this day and age.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. We have to constantly look at different things. So I know and I appreciate the time that you've given me because there's been a lot of golden nuggets in here that you've shared with our audience. And I want to kind of wrap this up a little bit by if you could think of two things that a small business could start today or tomorrow to impact their business, what would those two things be?
One is have a plan that's based upon goals
Absolutely.
and objectives, a strategy, then the tactics and wrap these all in a plan as to this is what I'm going to be doing this week, this month, 6 months, 1 year, and 3 years. I worked for the Japanese for 20-something years, And they always had 3 and 5 year plans.
Oh my gosh.
And we used to change things around, have to pivot from time to time. But by putting that down and in writing, you have certain goals and objectives that have to be realized with it. And you know what direction you're going in, because
Right.
otherwise, if you don't have this written down, you don't have a plan, you're not going to go anywhere.
Right.
It's a treadmill to nowhere.
Right. And it makes it easier to pivot to something else.
Absolutely.
So what's the second thing?
The second thing is pivot.
Okay.
You have to be prepared to pivot if what you're doing does not work, because it's such a highly competitive society. Everything is extremely competitive. I don't care what business you're in, and you need to how to pivot if it's not working for you. But more importantly, the other thing I want to stress with regard to that is focus. You can't be
Okay.
everything to everyone. You need to focus. And in with regard to focusing, you need to go deep within your respective niche and become the resident authority, the go-to person within that respective niche. Because what will happen then, people will gravitate towards you because they know what you're talking. They feel that you know what you're talking about,
Right.
and the business will come your way if you're thought of as that go-to person who can address their problems within that respective area. But you can't be a generalist. You have to be focused within a respective niche.
That subject matter expert. Yeah,
Correct.
subject matter expert. So, all the marketers that are out there that are, shoveling all kinds of stuff into the marketplace, what one or two marketer that really captures your attention or that you follow on a regular basis?
Well, one being Tom Peters.
Okay.
I've followed him for years in Search of Excellence and
Okay.
many other books.
All right.
Certainly, I alluded to, I greatly admire Jay Baer.
Right.
I know him personally, have met him, and he's a great guy, great MC.
He is an amazing guy.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing, and I just love his approach to things. It's very refreshing, very fresh.
Absolutely. And I think that Jay Bear would be a good person to investigate and follow as well.
Absolutely.
So, any book, if you had to pick a book, is there a marketing book that you would recommend as well?
There are actually 3 or 4 books that I recommend to people. One is Up Your Game by David Bradford.
Okay.
And that book is, the whole basis of it is helping others. Because if you help others, then it'll come back to help you accordingly. The other one is Stu Heinecke, How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. And the reason I share that is just recently, someone was referred to me, had been out of work for a long period of time. And so I sat down and had coffee, again, all volunteer with this individual. And I asked them, what were they doing? They were applying through the job boards only. They're getting absolutely nowhere. They hadn't had an interview in 5 months.
Oh my gosh.
So I sat back and I said, you need to change your approach. You need to go for the jugular. You need to go to the highest levels of the organization. And this is what you should do. Craft a nice email talking about your passion, why you want to work for that company, and send it to me. I'll take a look at it. He did that, and it was an outstanding email. And I said, also with that, you need to find out who the chief officer is with that respect for your respective discipline.
Sure.
And send the email to this individual, and then also send a Federal Express package to them with regard to what you've actually had, with maybe a nugget or something within that. So this person did that. Within 3 hours of sending the email to the C-level executive, the C-level executive had sent something back to him. He appreciated the approach he was taking, and he has sent this his information on to two of his subordinates to take a look at him. I just received a nice message from him the other day that this person had landed with a Fortune 100 company here in Atlanta due to the fact that they thought outside the box. And you, again, if you just relied on social media, relied on sitting on it, you get nowhere. So that's the other one is Stu Heinecke's book.
Okay.
And because he teaches you some of the tactics for so doing. The other one is Talk to Strangers.
Okay.
And David Topol, I believe is the name of the author.
Okay.
And the reason being, you never know what kind of opportunities you're going to create for yourself if you talk to strangers. Like in my particular case, it's a lengthy story, but nevertheless, in 1978, I was down in St. Thomas with 2 of my buddies on vacation. I struck up a conversation with this gentleman out in the water in St. Thomas, and we started talking. He asked me what I did. I said, well, I currently work for bank in Boston. It now is part of Bank New York Mellon. However, I wanted to get into high technology marketing. He said, well, it just so happens I'm a co-founder of a high technology company out in Hopkinton. So he told me, I'll give you my business card, and when you get back to Boston, give me a call.
Right.
I called him to an interview with him and his partner and several other people. 2 days later, had a job there.
Oh my gosh.
Because I reached out and I talked to a complete stranger, and it created an opportunity for myself. Right. So I advocate that everyone carry business cards and with them at all times, and talk to everyone you can. Take an interest in those people. What can you do to maybe help promote them as well? Right. But you never know whether it's going to come back to help you quickly.
The 3-foot rule. Anybody within 3 feet talk to.
Absolutely. The other one is a book on mental toughness by, her name is Lorraine Quay. And she is for 20-something years, she was a counterintelligence officer for the FBI.
Oh, my goodness.
She was in charge of rounding up spies out in the San Francisco area. Yes. And, dropped a gorgeous woman, and you'd never know she was a spy.
Oh, wow.
And so what happened is her book, what she's doing now since retiring from the FBI, is talking about mental toughness and how you need to be mentally tough and how to do so. And I think that's so critical for whether you're a job seeker or whether you're in business, because if you're not mentally tough, you're going to get eaten alive in this competitive environment. So those are some of the books I recommend to people that when I give my workshops on the job search and to business owners or to executives, because I think I benefit each and every one of those individuals.
Fantastic. Jeff, I can't thank you enough.
Oh, my pleasure.
A lot of great nuggets today. And stay tuned, folks. We're going to have more information about Jeff and how to reach him in the show notes. Jeff, thanks again, and I appreciate everything. Thanks a lot.
Quite welcome.
Take care. With today's attention-driven economy, many small businesses are pushing aside marketing or making marketing less of a priority as they get busier and busier. I think most companies view marketing as an expense and not as an investment in the growth of their business. The reality is that there's nothing more important than marketing to the vitality of your business long term. You have to keep telling your story and blowing loud your own horn so your passion for what you do shines through all the clutter and noise that we listen to every day. So with that said, we want to hear from you about the amazing things you're doing to get the word out about your company and how you're drawing attention to what it is you sell or do. Now, that's something you're doing intentionally or maybe even by accident that worked to bring in more customers. We want to brag on you. So here's how you can do that. Simply email us at team@csmediagroup.com and share a quick overview of your story in writing. Share your story so we can brag on you here at the Marketing Made Great podcast. Now, the best part is that your story will not only encourage others, but could very well translate it into a win from you to a win for someone else. So email us today at team@csmediagroup.com about your success story, and we'll get back to you right away. Who knows? We may even ask you to record your story right here on the Marketing Made Great podcast to be an inspiration to others. So contact us today. We're looking forward to hearing your story right away. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Marketing Made Great podcast. If you want more details about today's show and the resources mentioned, go to www.csmediagroup.com/podcast. Please be sure to send us your comments about the show and follow the link in the show notes to give us your suggestions for future show topics. With your help, we'll continue to only get better. Now, you can contact us directly with your topics at podcasttopics@csmediagroup.com as well if you'd like. Be sure right now to stop everything and subscribe to the show in iTunes or on your favorite podcast source so you never miss an episode of the Marketing Made Great podcast. While you're there, write us a positive review if you like the show. Also, we're going to ask that you spread the word to your friends about this podcast by visiting us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram with all your comments. Now, when you're posting, be sure to use our hashtag Marketing Made Great when posting, so we can add to the discussion online and all the social media platforms. Now, our show is produced in our studios located in Atlanta, Georgia's premier business accelerator, Atlanta Tech Park. I'm your host, Mark Traeger, and I want to thank you so much again for taking the time to listen to this week's episode of the Marketing Made Great podcast.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show.